Well, good morning. Here I am again. Allow me to repeat to you what I wrote you in my closing response to your excellent discussions about Romero. Once again, I wrote, you have worked well at these questions and making really great connections between the two films, and you're clearly articulating the moral dilemma that each struggles with. You're really getting this stuff, and it's great to read and join you in that conversation. Thanks so much for all that you've thought and done and taken this so seriously. I really get a lot of joy out of that. Thank you. Uh, by the way, I did write, as I did the week before, a response, kind of an overall general response to your discussion and your comments and your interaction with each other. So really encourage you to go back into the discussion section on Moodle and read my last response to your work. You've made some really important connections, not only back to Beckett, but also forward to more contemporary times, which I really celebrate. And I've commented on that. I want to call your attention to two or three things related to that. Let me say a few words about three of the assignments for week 3. Hump week. It's week 3. We're already coming up on halfway through this journey. It's always amazing how quickly this happens. So first, let me talk about the movie that you'll be watching during week 3. We move from focusing on the particular historical persons, Beckett and others who are associated with them, and Romero and those who were involved in his life, for better or worse, who find themselves caught up in real, demanding, moral, complicated questions that end up costing them their lives. This week we move to the Fellowship of the Ring from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. These filmic adaptations of the great novels of J.R.R. Tolkien. It's kind of a surprising shift, really, in a sense. We move from reality to myth. But we chose this film because it calls attention to some realities that are only kind of hinted at in the other two movies. They're there, but they're not as central, especially in the Fellowship of the Ring, as they are in the Fellowship of the Ring. Yes, there's a hero in this film. We can spend a lot of time talking about who that hero might be, but the film kind of builds and focuses around the character of Frodo Baggins. But there are also heroes in the film. There's a fellowship in the film. There are elves and wizards and dwarves and other hobbits and men as well, and other combinations. All of these are in some way heroes or have the capacity for heroism. And so we're going to talk about what we've talked about, but we're going to talk about it in a slightly different context. Many of these join together to accomplish a deed of such magnitude that the whole future of Middle-earth depends entirely upon it. And so it allows us to address some questions, but some of the same questions, but from a different perspective. You've probably all seen that film. If you haven't, this is a great excuse for you to watch it. Second, we make another kind of shift as well. Last week, we were looking at Aristotle and Plato, two of the kingpins, kind of two fathers of Western philosophy. This week, we shift to the world of more, we might say, more biblical world. We move to the world of Moses and Jesus, or maybe more appropriately, the worlds of Moses and Jesus. Again, I encourage you, read the directions carefully. There's very specific directions in there and questions you need to be answering. This time, rather than a lot of online sources, you're going to be looking at what we might call original text. You're looking at specific biblical scriptures chosen to help you answer these questions. From both the Old, or the Hebrew Bible, and the New, we might call the Christian Bible, overall the Holy Bible. The links to outside sources, there's one in under each of these characters, will help you to get a bigger picture if you need that. There are some similarities between the two, but there are also some important differences, and you're asked to address both of those. There's also a personal question for you to answer about the worldviews represented by these two individuals, and which is closest to your own. And don't forget to explain. Finally, the third thing I want to talk about, continuing your life mapping this week. This time the focus moves from events, places, times, to relationships, which are also connected to all those places and times and events and so on and so forth. But we're going to focus in on persons in our lives. The directions on this are fairly clear, so you'll want to read them carefully. And there are options about how you would present this work. But what this map is about is identifying and reflecting on the persons in your lives who have had the greatest influence on you for better and worse. This is not just about the good guys in our life. It's also about the bad guys, so to speak, who are often more involved in our growth and development than the good ones. That's an irony and a paradox, I know. Look at the big perspective questions and the directions for this essay. These will help you do the important work of self-reflection, which leads us always to the so what question, which I still think is one of the most important questions we deal with in this course. At this recording, I haven't yet read any of your first efforts at your life mapping with events, and I look forward to that. I hope you're finding this a valuable process in your journey. And so as a kind of a sign-off then, I want to say, by the way, blessings for your journey. See you soon. Bye-bye.